Hi, it's Liz from West Star Tarot, and today I am here to continue to respond to Mascha's Top Tarot Trump series, which I must say I am enjoying quite a bit. We're up to Trump 15, so today we'll be doing the Devil. And one of the things I've noticed about doing this series is revisiting each one of the major arcana and realizing that for some of them, I'm a little bit stuck in my ways. You know, I have my meaning and that's my meaning. Even though when I do read in context and I do look at the other cards, but as I'm pulling each card out one by one, I am thinking particularly, of course, of the meaning that I have for that card. And the Devil is a card that I realized I was kind of one-sided on. Now, you'll notice the 1, 2, 3, I actually did stick to 5 this time. 5 cards that I have chosen as my top devils are all modern interpretations. I don't have any that look like this. Well, one kind of looks like this. I did watch Mascha's video on the historic devil cards. She had a lot of old Tarot de Marseille and Italian decks, and I thought that was really interesting. But I don't really look at the devil so much that way. You'll see from some of the cards I have that I'm kind of looking at the devil more as a representation of the society in which we live, but also our individual selves. So I have kind of a mixed feeling about it. One of my dear friends, this is one of their favorite majors, and I've always sort of just been a little bit about the devil. I think because I was just looking at it in a unidimensional way. I wasn't exploring it widely enough. So I asked my friend for a few of their thoughts, and I'm just going to quickly go over what they said. So they look at it as sort of the pre-societal parts of ourselves, from the pre-Christian world. The things that are deep within us, in our natures, that are suppressed by conservatism and morals, and a condemnation of a person who stands outside the margins. Part of ourselves we'd rather not look at, the darker aspects that are core to who we are, but that are deemed not so acceptable by the general society within which we live. It can suggest excess, but in a positive way as well as a negative way. So those are just some thoughts that a friend of mine shared with me, and I thought, you know, I wanted to talk about them because, as I mentioned, I have had a little bit too narrow a view on this card. So I wanted to start off. This is from the Fifth Spirit Tarot by Charlie Claire Burgess, and you can see this is a little bit related to the Rider-Waite-Smith version, and this is the only one of the cards that I'm going to be showing that really has that. So Charlie says, I think this is really interesting. So the devil in their deck is insidious. This is devil as concept, as lifestyle, as economic power structure. This devil is whatever controls you against your best interests, whatever oppresses you and tells you it's for your own good, whatever gaslights you into believing them while they destroy you. And I think, I don't necessarily want to bring politics in, but why not? When I think of one of the presidential candidates running here in the United States, wow. Whatever gaslights you into believing them while they destroy you. Yeah, that really applies to that person, I think, at least in terms of their followers, not the rest of us who see the truth. So in readings, the devil alerts you to the presence of these chains. So let's get back to Charlie's card. These strings, so you can discover what controls you and get free. Maybe it's an emotionally abusive relationship, a job that treats you like crap, a misuse of alcohol, a political ideology, an internalized gender norm. It will take time and effort, but knowing your devil is the first step to liberating yourself. And I like that because, the fact is that we can liberate ourselves from the devil. We don't have to stay in bondage and chained. So the next three are a little bit, are political statements. I think I'll do this one first. This is without doubt one of my favorites. This might be my top favorite devil card. This is from the Delta Enduring. And here's this young man of color walking home, and he's got the blue following him. So here's what Egan says. Creeping slowly down the street in his police cruiser, the devil wears blue. In his sights is a young man of color for whom every walk home holds the threat of harassment, of oppression by the violent hand of the racist state, of the loss of his life at the hand of one committed to serve. Upright, this card speaks of the destructive forces in our lives. This can be the external oppressive forces in the world that pose a threat to our health and safety, making it seem like there is no hope, the very real danger of incarceration or death, meted out by police for so many innocent people. This again talks about bondage, being overcome by the powers that be, living on the margins, just not being within that accepted norm. And of course, I think part of what's particularly devilish about the devil is that part of our fear of being ostracized, of being on the margin, of being harassed, of being treated like the other, keeps us in bondage to the values of a more conservative culture, which can then control us. So I think that's a real part of a really important aspect of the devil. Up next is the Devil card from New Era Elements by Ellie Piper. I love this deck. When this deck first came out, it's a US Games deck. And sometimes I feel like US Games is kind of conservative in terms of the decks that they choose to publish. So I was really pleasantly surprised when they published this deck. There's a lot of people that don't like this deck. When it first came out, I was shocked by the reaction of folks to this deck. I love this deck. It doesn't shy away. So let's look at this one. So here we have, I would say the love of money and power consumerism, materialism, and again, here we see communism and fascism, and I'm going to have that be, shall I say, fake democracy? I don't know. So we are on one side of the world. When I say we, I'm talking about the Western world. So, North Americans and Europeans. And I'll speak for the country that I'm from, so the United States. So we consume. We listen to the oligarchy and we consume, but at what cost? There's a cost to the earth, and there's a cost to people who are not only in our own country, but in other countries as well. So that's the devil. Our devil is that we consume our love of money, our love of power, our love of luxury, our fear of living it not so high standard. We won't have our big TV, we won't have our cars, we will have our gas guzzlers. We don't want to. We want to go and have a closet as big as a bedroom, because we got to continue to buy all these clothes and shoes and eat out 4 or 5 nights a week, and all the consumption that the powers that be teach us that we can't live without. There's a price to that, not only to ourselves, but in particular a price to people in our own country, as I mentioned, but also other parts of the world. So here's what Ellie says, exploring this card. There is no central figure of a demon in this card, and the devil card shows us the victims. Modern evil cannot be blamed on some satanic being. It's done by the person next to you in a crowd who may harm you simply because you are the wrong color, sexual orientation, have the wrong beliefs, ideology is invoked to justify it all. And I'm thinking here about in the United States, there's a plan for if the Republicans win the election later this year. They have this plan called 2025, and it is certainly devilish, and it is certainly meant to harm others and to benefit them, and to use their values to control the rest of us. So, wow, I'm starting to get a little depressed. But the thing is, we can break free. We have to recognize when we look at Ellie's card here. Ellie, where is your card? We don't have to. We can release some of that materialism. We can live more simply. What is that expression? Live more simply so that others may simply live. It's something I think I need to really think about, and I guess many of us do. So maybe that's another way of thinking about the devil card that's not so depressing. So here you have another one of my favorites, obviously, because that's what this is about. And this is from Next World. This is Christy C. Rhodes' Next World Tarot. And I just want to... This is from the original larger size deck. So it says, justice is not blind. And then at the bottom it says, when silence equals profit. And I'm also going to say when silence equals death. So when we adhere to the powers that be, and align ourselves with them as opposed to our community and our neighbors and our siblings in our community, we are silent and we are complicit in the bondage of other folks and of ourselves. So let's look at the top here. So we have these 2 eagles, which of course symbolize the United States government. And here we have this politician. I'm just going to call them a senator. And this is like their, you know, a crowd, maybe even the Senate chambers. And they're reaching out to shake the hands of a member of the Klan. You know, so in this case, Christie has used the Klan to be representative of white supremacy, of misogyny, of homophobia, transphobia, all kinds of hatred and ways that we try to oppress others who are just trying to, you know, live their lives. And here, I love this, I don't know if you can see it, this shark with the blood coming out of its mouth and the dollar symbol. So again, the love of money, the endless craving for more, it leaves us bloodied, and it leaves others bloodied. Yeah, so that is Christie. Let me just, I wanted to read something that Christie says. The devil is the belief that the only way out is through siding with the oppressor. Sometimes we don't have the resources to immediately cut the ties, so how do we flourish and find self-preservation? Christie goes on to talk about how oftentimes we will side with the powers that be out of fear and the need for safety and self-preservation. And sometimes we do have the choice to leave the expense of our safety. Sometimes we choose to stay because we will suffer otherwise. Investigate your truth and your definition of safety. Who is truly being harmed? Who is truly safe? Ask yourself, what is your limit? What are your alliances? Are you supporting, working for, capitalizing off of, or otherwise aligning with systems rooted in harm and toxicity? At some point, the core values of society become based on class standards that uphold white supremacy, misogyny, and environmental terrorism. So this is more food for thought. You know, how do we break free of those ties? You know, we have to be brave, and I think if enough of us do it, we'll be okay. Safety in numbers and finding a way to form a new community, so to escape the devilish community that's been set up by the oligarchy, by the white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy. All right, I'm going to end on a less, well, it's not a great note, but at least it's not quite as horrific as that. So this is from The Gaian Tarot by Joanna Powell Colbert. This is the devil, and she calls it bindweed. And as a gardener, I am well aware of this plant. It is a non-native invasive species that overtakes the plants in my garden that are native and that I'm trying to grow. It binds itself. It grows up and around the other plants and binds itself to the other plants. The funny thing about this plant, however, is it has a really pretty flower. It looks kind of like a morning glory. So it's got this really pretty flower, but it's invasive and overtakes the native plants. So Joanna talks about this card in terms of being out of balance. And I think, you know, that's a way to look at the devil. Are we out of balance in terms of our love of power, our love of money, our striving for always having more material goods at the cost of our neighbors and our planet and our earth and sky and ocean? you know, and to what end? How do we bring ourselves back in alignment with our true values, and how we can live more simply, so others may simply live, back to that statement. So Joanna says, ask yourself, what holds you in bondage? What in your life or around you takes more than its fair share of attention, energy, and life force? What are at the roots of despair? What lies are being told and believed? And I think that's a theme throughout the Devil card. Bindweed warns that someone is playing power games, resulting in domination and control. Awareness is needed. Ignorance leads to fear of the unknown. The inability to love leads to isolation and depression. When addictions, whether they are drugs, alcohol, sugar, shopping, TV, or any other drug of choice, run loose in our lives, they create chaos. Immediate action is called for in order to restore balance. So, how do we bring ourselves and our lives and our community and our planet back into balance? And I think, going back to Charlie's card, we need to cut the ties to that dollar sign and the powers that are gaslighting us into thinking that if we would only work harder and earn more money and therefore be able to buy more things, we would be happier, healthier, and have a better lifestyle. But really, if we cut the ties to that mentality and we think about our community, so doing what lifts up not only ourselves, but our communities and our siblings around the world and our planet herself. So I think there is a way out. We just have to become conscious of the choices we make and think through the choices we're making and realize that what would make me happier? Baking a nice ratatouille casserole and sharing it with my neighbors, or buying a new TV, maybe another pair of shoes, a nicer car. I don't know. Well, so the devil made me do it. And I forgot one of the cards I really love the most. It's from the Housewife, I think, is that what it's called? The Housewife's Tarot. And it's the devil is Devil's Food Cake. I forgot that one. Anyway, that might have lent a cheerier note to this. But you know, we're going to get to the star and the sun eventually. Anyway, as always, thank you, Mascha, for having this series. I'm really enjoying it. It's making me think about how I look at each one of these cards individually, and to expand my horizons in terms of how I look at each one of the majors. So I'm going to end, as always, with peace and love, my friends.